The moment my mother found the hidden letters from Emily, my world shattered. "You're no daughter of mine if you're like that," she screamed, tears streaming down her face as she waved the crumpled pages like evidence of a crime. As my father dragged me to the front door and shoved me into the pouring Texas rain with nothing but a suitcase and the clothes on my back, Emily's calm voice on my phone was the only thing keeping me from breaking completely. "McKenna, breathe. Whatever happens next, I'm right here." I stood on the curb of our quiet suburban street in Willow Creek, the same town where my family had lived for 3 generations, the church steeple visible through the downpour like a judgmental finger pointed at me. Dad's voice still rang in my ears. "No Thompson is going to bring that kind of shame on this house." Mom had already called Pastor Reynolds, whispering about the devil's influence, while I packed under her watchful glare. At 24, I had just landed my first real job at the local newspaper, the one my father helped me get through his connections at the Chamber of Commerce. Now that future felt like it was dissolving in the rain along with every birthday party, every family dinner, every Sunday sermon where I had smiled and pretended I was the perfect daughter they raised. Emily's message played again on speaker as I shivered in the cold. We had met 3 years ago at the University of Texas in Austin, 2 freshmen thrown together in a journalism elective. She was the quiet artist with paint on her sleeves and a laugh that made the whole room feel lighter. I was the straight-A student hiding behind notebooks and family expectations. One late-night study session turned into confessions, then into stolen kisses in the library stacks, and finally into something neither of us could deny. Back in Willow Creek after graduation, we kept it secret. Late-night drives to the next county, coded texts, weekends when she visited under the guise of old college friends. Until last week, when I left my journal open on the kitchen table like an idiot. My phone buzzed again. "Where are you right now?" Emily asked, her voice steady even though I knew she was crying. I told her the bus station 2 miles away. She said she'd drive through the storm to pick me up, no questions. But as I started walking, suitcase wheels splashing through puddles, I couldn't stop thinking about the price. Dad owned the hardware store everyone in town shopped at. Mom ran the PTA. My younger brother Caleb was a senior in high school with college scouts watching his football games. One wrong move from me and the whole family would be the punchline at the diner, the cautionary tale at church potlucks. I had always been the one who fixed things, the reliable daughter who never talked back. Now I was the problem they needed to erase. By the time Emily's old blue Honda pulled up at the Greyhound station, my clothes were soaked through and my teeth were chattering. She didn't say a word at first, just wrapped me in the blanket from her backseat and held me while I finally let the tears come. "We'll figure this out," she whispered against my hair. Her voice the same gentle anchor it had been since the night I first told her I loved her. But even as we drove toward the cheap motel on the highway, I felt the weight of every choice pressing down. Staying silent had kept my family safe. Speaking the truth had just cost me everything I knew. And the worst part was I still didn't know if I had the strength to pay that price forever. The motel room smelled like stale smoke and cheap cleaner. Emily sat on the edge of the bed while I changed into dry clothes from her duffel bag. "Your mom called me," she said quietly. "She said if I ever contact you again, she'll make sure the whole town knows what I did to you." I laughed bitterly because of course they would blame her, the outsider artist from the city who corrupted their perfect girl. Emily reached for my hand, her fingers warm and steady. "McKenna, you don't have to decide tonight. But you do have to decide eventually." That night I lay awake listening to the rain, replaying every happy memory that now felt poisoned. Christmas mornings with Mom's cinnamon rolls. Dad teaching me to change a tire in the driveway. Caleb's proud grin when I helped him with his college essays. All of it balanced against the way Emily looked at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. By morning the storm had passed, but the real one was just beginning. My phone showed 3 missed calls from my mother's number, and a single text from Dad. "Conversion program starts Monday. We already paid. Don't make this harder than it has to be." The conversion program was called Renewal Pathways, a 2-month restorative retreat tucked away in the piney woods 2 hours north of Willow Creek. Dad drove me there himself on Monday morning, radio tuned to a Christian station the whole way, jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. "This is for your own good," he kept repeating, like saying it enough times would make it true. Mom hadn't come, said she couldn't bear to look at me yet. When we pulled up to the gated facility, a row of identical cabins and a central chapel surrounded by chain-link fence, I felt like I was entering prison wearing my own skin. The intake counselor, a man named Brother Thomas with a clipboard and a smile that never reached his eyes, explained the rules. No phones, no outside contact for the first 3 weeks, daily counseling sessions, group prayers, and reparative exercises designed to realign me with God's plan. I signed the papers because Dad stood right there, his hand on my shoulder like a warning. As he drove away without a backward glance, I wondered if this was the last time I'd ever see my family without shame in their eyes. The first week was a blur of scripture readings and forced confessions. My roommate, a quiet girl from Oklahoma named Sarah who whispered her own story only after lights out, told me her parents had sent her here after catching her with her girlfriend at prom. They said if I don't come home fixed, they'll never speak to me again, she said one night, voice cracking. I didn't tell her about Emily yet. I just stared at the ceiling and replayed Emily's last message before they took my phone. Remember who you are when the noise gets loud. I love you. Sessions with Brother Thomas started gentle. Bible verses about temptation, questions about my childhood wounds. But by day 5 they turned sharper. Tell me about the first time you felt this way toward another woman. He pressed, leaning forward. I gave him half-truths describing Emily as a friend who confused me. He nodded like he had heard it all before and assigned me extra prayer hours. The group meetings were worse. 10 of us sitting in a circle sharing testimonies, while counselors clapped for every claim of progress. One guy bragged about how the program had cured him after 3 tries. I kept my mouth shut and counted the days until I could call home. On the 14th day they finally allowed supervised phone calls. I dialed my mother's number with shaking hands. She answered on the second ring, voice cool and distant. The church is praying for you, McKenna. Pastor Reynolds told everyone you're on a spiritual retreat. Keep it that way. When I asked about Caleb, she said he was fine, that the football team had won their homecoming game. No mention of how I was doing. No, I miss you. Just do what they tell you so you can come home. That night I broke the rules and used Sarah's smuggled burner phone to text Emily from the bathroom. I'm surviving. Miss you more than air. Her reply came instantly. Then fight, baby. Your voice is stronger than their rules. I'll be waiting when you walk out. Those words wrapped around me like the blanket she'd given me the night I was kicked out. For the first time since arriving, I felt something besides numb fear. A tiny spark of defiance. Brother Thomas noticed the change in my next session. You're holding back, he said. True healing requires total surrender. I smiled politely and lied through my teeth, but inside I was already planning my escape from their version of healing. The second week brought the first real test. They showed us videos, grainy testimonials of former lesbians now happily married to men, raising godly families. During the discussion I stayed silent until a counselor called on me directly. McKenna, what do you see when you look at these women? I swallowed hard. I see people who were scared enough to lie to themselves. The room went dead quiet. Brother Thomas wrote something on his clipboard and smiled that empty smile. We'll work on that attitude. That evening Sarah was gone, transferred to another cabin after she had a breakdown during prayer circle. I never got to say goodbye. The isolation was deliberate, I realized. Break the bonds, replace them with program loyalty. But Emily's text still glowed on the burner phone I kept hidden in my sock drawer. Whatever they say, remember the park where we first said I love you. That was real. This isn't. By the end of week 3 I had lost 6 pounds from the bland food and endless walking circles during reflection time. My hands shook during every prayer. Dad called once, voice gruff. Pastor says the church board is watching your progress. Don't embarrass us. I hung up and cried in the shower where no one could hear. But when I read Emily's latest secret message, I'm renting an apartment in Austin. There's room for 2 when you're ready. Something shifted. The fear was still there, heavy as ever, but underneath it a new determination was growing. They wanted me to choose family honor. Emily's voice kept reminding me there was another choice. The breakthrough or breakdown came during the 4th week when they brought in the family reconnection day. Parents were allowed to visit for a supervised picnic on the lawn. I spotted Dad and Mom walking up the path, faces tight with forced smiles. Caleb wasn't with them. He's got practice. Mom explained quickly, hugging me like I was made of glass. We sat at a wooden table while Brother Thomas hovered nearby. Dad launched right in. The store's been busy. People keep asking about you. We told them you're doing mission work. Mom added. The ladies at church made you a prayer quilt. Bring it home when you're better. I tried to tell them how the sessions made me feel smaller every day, but Dad cut me off. This is temporary pain for eternal gain, McKenna. Think of your brother, scouts are calling. Don't ruin his chances. Mom's eyes filled with tears she quickly wiped away. We love you. That's why we're doing this. Their love felt like chains. When visiting hours ended and they drove away, Brother Thomas patted my shoulder. See? Your family is fighting for you. Now it's your turn to fight for them. That night the burner phone buzzed under my pillow. Emily. How was it? I typed back the truth. They looked at me like I was already dead. Her reply took 10 minutes to come. Then stop dying for them. Live for us. I stared at the screen until the battery died. Then lay awake replaying every word. The next morning I refused to join the prayer circle. Brother Thomas pulled me aside. Rebellion is just fear in disguise, he said. We'll double your sessions. The doubled sessions turned brutal. They made me write letters to my inner child, explaining why same-sex attraction was a lie. They played audio of sobbing success stories on loop. During one exercise I was supposed to visualize myself married to a man and raising children. Instead I saw Emily's face, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she sketched, the way her laugh sounded when we drove with the windows down. I stood up in the middle of the room and said, "This isn't working. I don't want to be fixed." The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Sarah reappeared 2 days later, eyes hollow. They moved me because I tried to run, she whispered. Don't make the same mistake. But I already had. That afternoon Brother Thomas informed me my parents had been called. They want an update on your progress, or lack of it. The betrayal hit when I learned Caleb had been the one who told them about the burner phone. My own brother, the kid I taught to ride a bike, had searched my things during the family visit and reported it. He was just trying to help, Mom said on the emergency call they allowed. We all are. I hung up and threw the phone across the cabin. Emily's next message came through Sarah's new hidden line. Your brother is scared. Your parents are scared. But fear isn't love. You taught me that once. The words cracked something open. I started writing my own letters, not the ones they wanted but the real ones. Letters to Emily describing every feeling I had buried. Letters to myself reminding me who I was before the fear took over. When Brother Thomas found the stack during a surprise inspection, he didn't yell. He just smiled that same empty smile and said, "We're transferring you to intensive track tomorrow. Your family agrees it's necessary." Intensive track meant isolation cabin, no group, only one-on-one sessions from dawn till dusk. But it also meant I finally understood the game. They weren't curing me. They were breaking me until I chose the version of me that kept their world intact. Emily's voice in my head grew louder than Brother Thomas's sermons. You don't owe them your silence anymore. For the first time I believed her. The news of my intensive track spread back to Willow Creek faster than I expected. My editor at the newspaper called the program office. Someone had tipped him off. "McKenna, the story's out," he said during the single monitored call they allowed. Local blog ran a piece about the Thompson girl at that camp. Your dad's store lost 3 big accounts already. I could hear the apology in his voice even as he said the paper had to let me go. Conflict of interest. Just like that, the career I had fought for since high school was gone. Mom's next call was frantic. The church board met. They're talking about removing your father from deacon duties if this doesn't resolve quickly. McKenna, please. For us. Dad wouldn't even come to the phone. Caleb sent a single text through the office. I didn't mean for it to blow up. Fix it. The guilt they wanted me to feel crashed over me like a wave, but underneath it was something new, anger. They had taken my home, my job, my privacy. Now they wanted my soul too. Emily found out through a mutual college friend who saw the blog. Her message was short and fierce. I'm driving up there. They can't stop me from the parking lot. Say the word and I'll be there. I wanted to say yes more than anything, but the rules were ironclad. No visitors except approved family. So instead I dictated a letter through Sarah, who risked smuggling it out during her own family day. Don't come yet. I'm close to something. Just keep talking to me. The intensive sessions turned personal. Brother Thomas brought in my childhood photos, my report cards, even my old diary from middle school. See? You were happy before this confusion started, he said, pointing at pictures of me in a pink dress at church. I stared at the girl in the photos and felt nothing but pity. That girl had been performing for an audience that never really knew her. What if I was never confused? I asked him quietly. What if I was just waiting to be seen? He didn't answer. Instead, he assigned me a new exercise. Stand in front of a mirror and repeat, "I choose God's design," until I cried. I repeated it until my voice gave out, but the words never felt true. The first real betrayal from inside the program came from Sarah. During a joint session, she told Brother Thomas everything I had confided. The secret texts, my plan to leave early, even Emily's name. "I'm sorry," she whispered later, eyes down. "They promised me early release if I helped you see the light." I couldn't even be angry. She was just as broken as I had been. But the damage was done. My parents received a full report. Dad's text was the shortest yet. "If you walk out of there unchanged, don't bother coming home. Ever." That night I used the last of the smuggled minutes on Sarah's phone to call Emily. Her voice when she answered was the first real light in weeks. "McKenna. I'm still here," I said, choking on the words. "But I don't think I can stay much longer." She didn't ask for details. She just said, "Then come home to me. The apartment is ready. My arms are ready. Your life is ready." I hung up before the counselor could knock, but her words stayed with me like a heartbeat. The next morning when Brother Thomas asked if I was ready to surrender, I looked him in the eye and said no for the first time out loud. The consequences arrived by afternoon. My parents cutting off all funding, the program threatening legal guardianship papers they had pre-signed. The walls were closing in, but so was the door to freedom. The final confrontation happened on a Tuesday that felt like any other until the black SUV pulled into the parking lot. My parents and Pastor Reynolds stepped out together, faces set like they were attending a funeral. Brother Thomas ushered us into the chapel for a family intervention. Mom spoke first, voice trembling. "We've lost customers. The ladies at Bridge Club won't look at me. Your brother is being teased at school. Is this what you want for us?" Dad followed with the hammer. "Sign the release saying you're staying another month and we'll forget all this. Refuse and you're on your own. No money, no name, no family." Pastor Reynolds laid out the biblical consequences: eternal separation, community shunning, the works. I sat there listening to every threat and felt the last pieces of the old McKenna cracking away. They weren't asking me to change. They were asking me to disappear. When it was my turn to speak, I surprised even myself. "I love you," I said, looking at each of them. "But I love myself more now. And I love Emily." The silence that followed was absolute. Mom started crying. Dad stood up so fast his chair fell over. "Then we're done," he said, and walked out without looking back. Mom followed, Pastor Reynolds trailing like a shadow. That afternoon the program gave me 48 hours to reconsider, or be removed. I spent them writing one last letter, this time to Caleb. "Little brother, I never meant to hurt you. But I can't live a lie so you can have scouts. I hope one day you understand." Sarah slipped it into the outgoing mail for me. Her own eyes read from her latest session. "You're braver than I was," she whispered. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. But Emily's voice on the smuggled call that night anchored me. 48 hours. Then you're free. I'll be at the gate. The community backlash hit social media by evening. Someone from church posted a prayer request that turned into a comment storm. "Pray for the Thompson family and their wayward daughter." Old high school friends I hadn't spoken to in years sent messages, some condemning, some secretly supportive. My former editor texted, "The story's blowing up. If you want to tell your side when you're out, the paper will print it." I saved the message but didn't reply. The career I lost might come back, but only if I survived the next 2 days. Brother Thomas made one final attempt at dawn on day 2. "Your family is willing to take you back if you sign this statement of faith." The paper listed every denial I would have to make about Emily, about myself, about the truth. I read it once, then tore it in half right in front of him. "I'm leaving today," I said. He didn't argue. just nodded like he had seen it before, and started the paperwork for involuntary discharge. By noon my suitcase was packed again, this time with the few things I had smuggled in: Emily's blanket, my half-written letters, and the burner phone now fully charged with her last message. "I'm already in the parking lot. Come out whenever you're ready. No more hiding." The gate buzzed open at exactly 2 p.m. I walked through it without looking back, the pine trees blurring as tears finally came. Emily stood beside her Honda, arms open. I ran the last 20 yards and crashed into her like the storm I had survived. "You did it," she whispered against my hair, voice shaking with the same relief I felt. "We both did." But even as we drove away, I knew the real fight was just starting. The family I had protected for so long was gone. The reputation, the job, the town, all of it. The only thing left was the truth and the woman beside me who had never once asked me to be anyone else. The apartment in Austin was small, sunlit, and smelled like fresh paint and Emily's coffee. For the first week I barely left the couch, jumping every time my phone rang, even though the only calls now came from unknown numbers offering thoughts and prayers or worse. Emily handled everything: groceries, job applications for me at local papers, even the restraining order when Dad's lawyer sent papers demanding I never contact the family again. "They'll calm down," she kept saying, but we both knew some breaks don't heal. The blog post I finally wrote went viral in ways I never expected. "What I learned when my family chose honor over me" appeared under my real name for the first time. Comments poured in. Other queer kids from conservative towns, parents who regretted their choices, even a few from Willow Creek who whispered support in private messages. My old editor called the day after it published. "We want you back. Remote, full-time, your own column." The offer felt like oxygen after drowning. I accepted, but the victory tasted bittersweet. Every byline now carried the weight of what it had cost. Caleb texted once, months later. "Mom cries when she thinks no one's looking. Dad won't say your name. I miss my sister." I replied with the truth. "I miss all of you too. But I can't come back as someone I'm not." He never answered. Emily held me while I cried, her voice the same steady anchor. "You gave them every chance. Now give yourself the life they tried to take." We built something new together. Sunday brunches with her artist friends, late nights editing my columns side by side, weekend drives to the hill country where no one knew our names. The nightmares about the camp faded. The ache for my family never did, but it grew quieter, like a scar that only hurt in cold weather. One evening Emily found me staring at an old family photo I had saved. "You don't have to throw it away," she said softly. "Just don't let it decide who you are now." 6 months after I walked out of Renewal Pathways, I stood on stage at a small Pride event in Austin, microphone in hand, telling a room full of strangers the story I once couldn't whisper. When I finished, Emily was waiting in the front row, eyes shining with the same pride that had carried me through every locked door and broken promise. I stepped down into her arms and knew, finally, that the price had been worth it. Not because I won or they lost, but because I was no longer disappearing to keep anyone else comfortable. The life I chose wasn't perfect. Some mornings I still woke up reaching for a family that wasn't there. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered the voice that had never wavered. Emily's voice on a rainy night outside a slammed door, in secret text from a locked cabin, and now every day in the home we made together. It had given me the courage to break free. And freedom, I finally understood, was the one thing no one could ever take back. Is it true that protecting family honor is always worth more than living your authentic truth? True or false?